Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to uncover the deeply hidden history of a true self-help icon, a man whose real, foundational methods were quietly erased from the public eye. We are exploring the life of a figure whose teachings have quite literally influenced millions upon millions of people, yet who remains almost completely misunderstood today. Seriously, prepare to rethink everything you thought you knew about manifestation and the actual power of your own mind. Now, I want to pose this question directly to you. Why does the most popular self-help book ever written fail for almost everyone who reads it? It's a fair question, right? Well, the answer is both incredibly simple and kind of startling. You see, the version of Joseph Murphy's methods that gets taught in modern culture has been heavily sanitized. It's been entirely stripped of its original mystical power. The profound techniques that actually generated the massive, life-changing results people talk about, they were watered down over decades into this generic advice that just completely misses the core mechanism.
Just wrap your head around this number for a second. 100 million. That is the estimated high-end number of copies sold of Joseph Murphy's famous book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. I mean, it sits on more bedside tables than almost any other self-help book in existence. When Murphy passed away in 1981, his work was already this massive global success. But then, by the 1990s and 2000s, when his books were being reissued and repackaged for modern audiences, something absolutely crazy happened. The actual specific techniques that made him so successful in the first place were quietly edited out, all to emphasize his most marketable, palatable material.
So we're left with this stark contrast between his public persona and reality. It's like looking at two completely different people. On one hand, we have mainstream Murphy. This is the guy the self-help industry packaged for mass consumption, the genial, friendly uncle of positive thinking who tells you to repeat generic affirmations in the mirror. But the historical, real Murphy? He was a hardcore working mystic. He drew freely from the Hebrew Kabbalah, Hindu Vedanta, and Catholic mysticism. He openly wrote about astral travel, telepathy, and the predictive power of dreams, which is wild when you consider he started out as an Orthodox Catholic seminarian. Oh, and he used pure mind work to heal his own life-threatening cancer. That is a vastly different person than the guy on the modern book covers. To truly understand how his methods actually work, we have to trace his extraordinary life path. Born in Ireland in 1898, Murphy was on a strict, rigid track to becoming a Jesuit priest, while simultaneously earning his credentials as a chemist. But as a young man, he witnessed a miraculous healing that his Orthodox Catholic theology simply could not explain. This healing didn't require any saints or papal authority. It was just the quiet, focused conviction of a human mind. And that completely broke his faith in what he was being taught. So in May 1922, he completely abandoned his Jesuit training, boarded a ship to New York as a steerage passenger, and eventually found his way to a small apartment in Harlem. And there, lit by a single oil lamp, he met a mysterious Ethiopian rabbi named Abdullah. Now, this encounter changed literally everything for him. When Murphy first sat down, Abdullah just looked at him and delivered this exact quote. "You are one of 6 children. You believe you are one of 5. You are wrong." Murphy was absolutely stunned. No way could this stranger know that. But he wrote back to his mother in Ireland, who confirmed the truth. There had actually been an unrecorded stillborn brother who was erased from family conversation for nearly 30 years. Abdullah wasn't just speaking in vague, abstract theories. By reading a truth that Murphy himself had zero conscious access to, Abdullah proved right then and there that his mystical methods were real, and more importantly, they were operational. So the crucial point is what Abdullah taught him next. It was a concept called the place of meeting. Today, modern neuroscience actually has a name for this. It calls it the hypnagogic state. It's that super relaxed, groggy borderline condition just before you fall asleep or right after you wake up. According to Murphy's unedited teachings, the conscious mind's critical filter completely dissolves in this state, and this is exactly why standing fully awake in a bright bathroom, shouting affirmations at a mirror, is considered a complete waste of time in this system. Think about it. When you're wide awake, your conscious mind just argues with you. It blocks the suggestion. You have to slip past the gatekeeper. This brings us to what Murphy called the sleep treatment. Take this amazing story directly from his original records. A young woman came to Murphy and she was deeply desperate, completely broke and about to lose her apartment. Murphy gave her this single simple phrase to repeat, slowly, really feeling the truth of it as she drifted into sleep each night. "Divine intelligence within me is opening the perfect door at the perfect time." Just 1 week later, she got an unexpected call from an acquaintance, landing a job that immediately tripled her salary. And the craziest part? Within 5 years, she owned a piece of that very business outright. For those who wanted a more structured approach, Murphy actually codified this into a 5-step scientific prayer protocol. 1. Recognition of the infinite intelligence. 2. Unification, actually feeling your connection to it. 3. Realization, seeing your desire as already true in the present moment. 4. Thanksgiving, celebrating it as if it has already arrived to really seal that impression. And 5. Release. Now listen closely to this, because step 5 is where almost everyone fails. People pray, and then they immediately check for results with anxiety. They're basically returning to a state of lack. If you don't release it, it never takes root in the deeper mind.
Let's look at how this works in a professional setting. Take the case of a really frustrated Los Angeles chemist who was stuck in low-paying lab work. Murphy instructed him to apply this exact 5-step protocol every single morning and every evening for 90 days. Well, within 60 days, he was offered a new position at 4 times his salary, and he eventually ended up running his own consulting firm. But there was a massive caveat to this success, known as the chemist's secret. He applied the protocol in absolute silence. Murphy stressed that you must never share your goals while you're manifesting them. Why? Because doing so gives your deeper mind the opportunity to be totally undermined by other people's skepticism and borrowed doubt. But you might be wondering, what do you do during the day when you're fully awake? Well, Murphy paired the nighttime sleep treatment with intense daytime vigilance through what he called the Law of Substitution. If a thought of fear arose, he wouldn't entertain it. He immediately substituted it with confidence. Lack was instantly swapped for abundance, sickness for wholeness. And here is the real kicker. You don't just do this once and call it a day. You have to do this continuously. We're talking hundreds of times a day if necessary, until the old mental pattern completely dissolves and the new one takes over. And Murphy didn't just teach this stuff to others, he relied on it to save his own life. Diagnosed with a life-threatening cancer lesion in the 1940s, he refused conventional aggressive medical intervention. Instead, he used this exact phrase, the healing word, for 20 solid minutes before sleeping and 20 minutes after waking. The wholeness, beauty, and perfection of the infinite are flowing through every atom of my being. He paired that with the relentless daytime application of the Law of Substitution, and within 30 days, the lesion had regressed and vanished entirely. The cancer never returned, and Murphy lived for another 40 years. And this brilliantly illustrates another cornerstone of the real Murphy that got completely erased over time, his interpretation of Scripture. Murphy read the Bible in Greek, Latin, and Hebrew, but he did not view it as literal historical fact. Instead, he believed it was a coded, psychological textbook all about manifestation. In his unedited teachings, Joseph isn't a historical figure at all, it represents your imagination. The Pharaoh is the limited conscious reasoning mind. Lazarus represents your dormant, buried desires, and Jesus is the awakened spiritual sense that calls those dead hopes back to life. But of course, the self-help industry completely stripped this out because it challenged conventional religious readings way too much. And it wasn't just his biblical interpretations that got buried. If you dig a little deeper, you find several of Murphy's books that the modern industry conveniently ignores today. I'm talking about titles like Psychic Perception, which openly taught extrasensory perception and astral travel, or Secrets of the I Ching, which treated Chinese divination as a literal dialogue with the subconscious mind. He even wrote a book called How to Pray with a Deck of Cards, assigning divinatory meanings to suits and numbers. He was a working mystic synthesizing Hindu Vedanta, Hebrew mysticism, and Chinese divination into one system. But all of this was deemed far too strange for mainstream America, so it was just wiped from his legacy.
Which finally brings us to our ultimate question. We've recovered his core toolkit today, the hypnagogic sleep treatment, the 5-step scientific prayer, and the relentless law of substitution. If a heavily censored, watered-down version of Joseph Murphy's work was powerful enough to reach 100 million people, what could you manifest using the original, unedited techniques? The keys to this are still here, literally hiding in plain sight. So the only question left for us now is, are you willing to actually test them in your own life?